Hey guys, close your eyes for a moment and let yourself drift back, far, far beyond the time of kings and castles, before there were cities, before there were roads, before there were even villages that could last more than a few generations. You arrive in an age where the world feels almost untouched. Thick forests stretch endlessly, rivers cut deep paths through the earth, and the air carries the smoke of fires lit not for luxury, but for survival. You find yourself among a small band of people, their clothes made from rough animal hides, their faces weathered by the sun and the wind. They move carefully, cautiously, because everything here demands caution. The wild animals that roam nearby, the sharp rocks that can cut their bare feet, the cold nights that press heavily on their bones. But tonight, the group gathers not to hunt, not to cook, but to build. They have chosen a spot where large stones lie scattered, and with little more than their own hands, they begin the slow, exhausting task of moving them. You stand close enough to hear the sound, the grunt of effort, the scrape of rock against dirt, the crack of one stone against another. There are no tools as you know them, no chisels of iron or bronze, not even copper. The tools are their arms, their shoulders, their will. One man presses his weight against a stone until his whole body trembles. Another wedges a branch underneath, using it as a crude lever. A third joins, pushing alongside, their feet digging deep into the soil. Slowly, painfully, the stone shifts. It does not rise quickly or gracefully. It drags, it scrapes, it resists, but at last it moves a few inches. And in those inches, you feel the triumph of an entire world learning something new. As you watch, you sense the strangeness of the moment. These people are not simply building shelter from rain or wind. They are experimenting, almost unknowingly, with permanence. Their huts of branches and leaves have always rotted with time. Their shelters of mud have washed away with the rains. But the stones, these will last, even if their bodies grow tired, even if the fire dies down, even if generations pass. The stones will remain, heavy and silent, keeping their place in the earth. You feel the sun setting behind you, painting the horizon red and gold, while the group continues to strain. Children sit nearby, wide-eyed, watching the strange determination of their elders. Women gather dried grass and clay, shaping it with their palms into clumps that will be packed between stones. The air fills with dust and sweat, with the steady rhythm of breath that rises and falls with every push. There is no overseer shouting orders, no foreman cracking a whip. The struggle itself is the guide. Each person sees what must be done. This stone must rise. That gap must be filled. This fire must keep burning to keep the wild away. Their labor is backbreaking, yet it is not meaningless. It carries a strange kind of hope, the hope that what they build will not vanish tomorrow, that the earth can hold their touch. You step closer and run your hand along one of the rough stones. Its surface is cool, its edges jagged. It is far too heavy for one person. Yet, when 4 or 5 lean together, it shifts. In that moment, you realize that what endures here is not only stone, but cooperation. Alone, each of these people would fail. Together, they move mountains, inch by inch, bruise by bruise. The night grows darker. Stars pierce the sky in sharp points of light. Still, the group works, their figures lit by the glow of fire. The shadows stretch long across the ground, bending and swaying as bodies strain and rest. Strain and rest. You hear the sighs of exhaustion, the small cries of effort, the low hum of voices encouraging. one another in a language so old it feels almost like the sound of the earth itself. As hours pass, the stones begin to take shape. They are not yet a wall, not yet a house, but they are no longer just scattered pieces of rock. They have been chosen, arranged, set with intention. They lean upon each other, held firm by clay pressed into the cracks. A structure is rising. Small, humble, uneven, but undeniably human. You let yourself imagine what this means for the people who built it. Perhaps they dream of a night when the rains will come, and instead of dripping through branches, the water will slide down stone. Perhaps they imagine wolves prowling near, but stopping short when they find only cold rock between them and the fire. Perhaps they think of children who will grow inside this place, their small hands never knowing the fear of wind tearing down their shelter. The fire crackles, the stones settle, and you breathe deeply, letting the weight of the moment sink in. This is not history written in words. It is history pressed into the ground by tired feet, carried in aching shoulders, and fixed forever in rock. The builders themselves may never know what they have begun. They may never live to see monuments or temples or pyramids. But tonight, under a sky thick with stars, you stand among the first stones laid by human hands. And as you listen to the quiet rhythm of work slowing, of fire crackling low, of voices softening into murmurs of sleep, you feel the ancient weight of labor. It presses gently on your mind, steady, heavy, unhurried, like the stones themselves. You close your eyes, and the sound of the ancient world fades into silence. The air is heavy with heat, and the smell of damp earth rises around you. You are standing on the edge of a wide riverbank, where people bend low, scooping dark clay from the water's edge. Their bodies glisten with sweat, their hands and feet coated in mud that clings like a second skin. The river laps gently, carrying away bits of straw that have fallen from bundles piled nearby. The scene is simple yet relentless. Mud, straw, and human effort weaving together into the earliest bricks of history. Men and women step barefoot into shallow pits dug into the soil. Inside these pits, the clay has been tossed and mixed with water until it shines wet and slippery. Into this, they scatter dried straw, thin stalks broken from the fields, light but strong, and then begins the stamping. Dozens of feet press down, twist, and grind. Children laugh as they join in, though their laughter quickly fades when the work drags on hour after hour. The mixture squelches and resists, sticking to legs, pulling at toes, yet slowly turning into something new. Thick, binding, and firm. The sound is rhythmic, almost hypnotic. Feet pressing, voices murmuring, hands slapping wet clay onto straw, and the occasional thud as a clump is lifted and dropped into a wooden mold. You watch as a man smooths the top of a mold with his palm, wiping away excess before lifting it. When he does, a perfect rectangle remains behind. Still wet, still fragile, but unmistakably a brick. One by one, these bricks are carried into the sun. They are laid out in rows across the ground, stretching farther than your eyes can see. The sun beats down, drying the mud until it hardens, while the straw inside holds the shape together, preventing cracks. Hours turn to days, and these bricks, once nothing but river clay and broken grasses, become sturdy enough to stack, one atop another to form walls. You walk among the workers as they haul armfuls of bricks toward a growing structure. The walls rise slowly, unevenly, but with determination. Mortar is not yet refined. Instead, fresh clay is pressed between bricks, sealing gaps, binding one layer to the next. The builders' bodies bend and strain, sweat dripping from their foreheads into the earth below. Some pause to rest, their hands trembling from the endless lifting. Others keep pushing forward, driven by necessity. A house must stand before the rains come, before the winds sweep across the plain. You notice the marks these labors leave. Hands are blistered, skin rubbed raw from carrying rough bricks against bare arms. Feet are sore and cracked from stamping in clay. Yet there is no hesitation. For them, survival depends on this effort. If walls can rise, the storms will not tear them down. If roofs can be supported, children will sleep dry through the night. The sun lowers slowly across the horizon, but still the work continues. Fires flicker nearby, smoke curling into the dimming sky, while shadows of laborers stretch across the drying fields of bricks. You hear soft chants, low, steady songs hummed to keep rhythm as the work carries on. The voices mingle with the buzzing of insects, the crackle of fire, and the constant shuffling of feet in mud. As you watch, you realize this is not only survival, it is something more, the beginnings of permanence. Unlike leaves or branches that rot within weeks, unlike tents of hide that tear and collapse, these bricks endure. Rain may darken them, but the sun will strengthen them again. Season after season, they will hold their place. Night falls, and torches are lit. The glow reveals walls already high enough to cast shadows, enclosing a space that will soon be a shelter. Families sit nearby, weary but hopeful, eating simple meals of grains and roasted roots. Children lean against half-built walls, their eyelids heavy, comforted by the idea that they are protected, even if the structure is not yet complete. You step closer and touch the surface of one wall. The bricks are rough, their edges chipped, but together they form something greater. Each brick is the product of countless footsteps in clay, of endless hours under the sun, of patience repeated day after day. You sense how much of human life has been pressed into them. Sweat, breath, and time. The night deepens, stars wheel slowly overhead, and the laborers finally rest. Their bodies sink into the ground near the fire, but their work lingers, silent and immovable in the darkness. The half-built walls stand like guardians, their presence both humble and monumental. They are not temples or palaces, not yet, but in them lies the seed of every structure to come. The pyramids, the cathedrals, the castles, all born from these first bricks of mud and straw. You let the sound of the quiet night sink in, the distant croak of frogs by the river, the soft sighs of sleeping children, the crackle of fire dying low. The air is thick with the scent of drying clay, earthy and strong, and as you breathe it in, you feel the ancient rhythm of labor slowing, your own thoughts softening, until all that remains is the steady presence of walls rising slowly out of the earth. The morning air feels sharp against your skin as you arrive at a vast clearing. Around you, the ground is churned by countless feet, and scattered across the earth are enormous stones, each heavier than a dozen men combined. They lie silent and immovable, yet the people gathered here are determined to shift them. Their voices rise in short, urgent calls, their arms straining against ropes braided thick from animal hide and plant fibers. A group approaches one of the great stones. They loop ropes tightly around it, pulling the knots firm until the cords creak with tension. Men dive their heels deep into the soil, gripping the rope with both hands, while others shove wooden poles beneath the stone's edge. The wood is long and rough, stripped of branches but still smelling of pine and sap. With a shouted signal, they heave together. The effort shakes through the ground. The stone groans as it shifts, only slightly, but enough to send dust rising in a cloud. The workers' faces twist with strain, their muscles trembling, veins standing out across their arms and necks. Yet, when the stone tips, even a little, a wave of relief spreads among them. They wedge thicker logs beneath, then repeat the process, forcing the giant weight higher and higher off the ground. Nearby, another group prepares the path. Logs are laid end to end, forming a rough track across the soil. Once the stone is levered onto the first log, it will be rolled forward, each log beneath carrying its burden before being lifted again to the front of the line. The system is crude but effective. Without wheels, without beasts of burden, human ingenuity and endless labor become the only tools. The command is given, and the pulling begins again. Ropes stretch taut. The logs beneath creak and groan. And slowly, painfully, the massive block begins to move forward. Inch by inch, the stone crawls across the earth, leaving furrows in its wake. Men shout encouragement to one another, their feet slipping, their shoulders bruised by the ropes. Women and children run alongside, dragging new logs into place, keeping the track alive as the giant stone edges forward. You walk alongside them, close enough to see the grit on their hands, the dirt embedded beneath their nails, the raw skin rubbed by fibers of rope. Their breathing is harsh, ragged, like the sound of waves crashing again and again. Yet beneath the exhaustion lies determination. This stone, one among many, will form part of something larger. Perhaps a tomb, perhaps a ceremonial site, perhaps a wall that marks sacred ground. They do not move it for convenience. They move it because it must be moved. As the day burns on, the sun climbs higher, searing bare skin and drying throats. Water is fetched in skins, passed from hand to hand, each person gulping before returning to the task. Shadows shorten, sweat darkens the earth, and still the stone crawls forward, each shift of its weight announced by groans of wood and cheers of relief. By afternoon, the workers pause. The stone now rests upon a new stretch of logs, halfway across the clearing. The ground bears deep scars where the weight has passed, but the path ahead still waits. Men sit in the dust, chests heaving, while women fan the fires to prepare food. Grains roasted, roots softened, nothing luxurious, but enough to fill aching stomachs. The children, restless, play at imitating their elders, dragging small rocks with tiny ropes, pretending to share the burden of giants. When the meal is finished, the work resumes. Again, the shouting, the straining, the trembling of bodies against stone. Again, the logs roll. Again, the dust rises. Some slip and fall, dragged forward before others pull them back to their feet. One man clutches his shoulder, groaning, but after a few breaths he joins again, unwilling to stop while others keep moving. Their strength is not limitless, yet it is multiplied by numbers, by rhythm, by shared purpose. As evening nears, the stone finally reaches the edge of the prepared clearing. Beyond lies a foundation, trenches dug, earth leveled, waiting for its massive burden. The workers gather for one last heave, voices rising together, ropes pulled tight, logs cracking beneath strain. With a final surge, the stone lurches forward and comes to rest exactly where it is meant to be. Cheers erupt, not loud and wild, but deep and relieved, the sound of victory after endless struggle. The sun sinks low, and the exhausted group collapses near the fires once more. The air smells of smoke, sweat, and wood, heavy but grounding. You look back at the stone, now silent in its new place. To the eye, it seems still, lifeless, Yet you know how much life has been poured into it. Hours of effort, strength, and pain now rest within its weight. Night deepens. Stars spread across the sky, cool and eternal above the toil of the earth. The workers sleep in clusters, their bodies curled on the ground, while the stone remains unmoving, a monument not only to what it will become, but to the sheer will that placed it here. You realize that in this simple act, ropes pulling, logs rolling, levers lifting, human beings have unlocked the power to reshape the world. And as silence settles over the camp, you feel that power still. Heavy, steady, patient, like the stone itself, it waits. And slowly, with the rhythm of their effort echoing in your mind, you drift deeper into calm, as though being rolled gently along the track of time. The sun blazes down on an endless stretch of golden sand. The air ripples with heat, and the horizon trembles as if it were melting away. You stand among thousands of people gathered at the base of a monumental project, one that towers already above the desert, though it is far from complete. Blocks of limestone, each taller than a man, rise in stepped layers, forming the beginnings of a pyramid that will one day pierce the sky. The scene is overwhelming. Everywhere you look, people are in motion. Long lines of workers drag sledges across the sand, ropes straining, bodies bent forward in unison. Others pour water on the ground ahead to reduce friction, turning dust into slick mud. At the ramps leading up the side of the structure, men shout to one another as they haul the massive blocks upward, their feet slipping on wooden planks laid over packed earth. The sound is constant and thunderous. Whips crack in the hot air as overseers urge the workers onward. Wooden mallets strike wedges. Chisels bite into stone. Sledges scrape and groan as they grind forward. The workers grunt and gasp, their breath mixing with the searing wind. Sweat streams down their bodies, stinging their eyes, soaking their simple linen garments. You watch a group at the base, struggling with a block freshly cut from the quarry. It weighs several tons, yet dozens of men surround it, ropes across their shoulders. Their muscles tremble as they lean forward. Step by step, they drag the block across the sand. Some stumble, but others take their place, never allowing the load to stop. Behind them, more men rush forward with logs to reinforce the ramp, so the sledge can move higher. At the quarry, another scene unfolds. The air rings with the sharp crack of copper chisels and wooden mallets. Dust rises as stone is split from the cliffside. Men wedge wooden slats into cracks, then soak them with water. As the wood swells, the stone splits free, collapsing with a deafening crash. Cheers rise, but the victory is brief. Soon the block must be shaped, loaded, and dragged toward the pyramid. Another burden in an endless line of burdens. Food and water arrive in baskets carried by women and children. Dates, bread, onions, and jars of beer provide fuel for exhausted bodies. Workers eat quickly, their eyes glazed with fatigue, before returning to their ropes. Their hands are raw, skin split where fibers have rubbed too long. Shoulders are swollen, backs bowed, yet still they continue. For some, this is forced labor. For others, it is duty to a king who is seen as a god. Whatever the reason, the pyramid rises day after day, its stones stacking toward the heavens. You climb the ramp, feeling the tremble of the earth as blocks are dragged upward beside you. The higher you go, the more breathtaking the view becomes. From here, you see the Nile glinting in the distance, its waters feeding the fields that stretch like a green ribbon across the desert. Beyond, the sands roll endlessly, broken only by the shimmer of heat, and directly below, The pyramid spreads wide, its base swallowing acres of land, its shadow stretching far across the ground. At the summit, where the latest layer is being laid, the air is alive with shouts. Dozens of men balance on narrow ledges, guiding the stone into position. Inch by inch, it slides into place until it finally rests against its neighbors. The fit is remarkable, tight enough that not even a blade of grass could slide between. The workers slump in relief, some collapsing to their knees, but overseers quickly bark new orders. Another block is already on its way up the ramp. The day stretches on. The sun sinks lower, but the work does not stop. Torches are lit as darkness falls, their flickering light painting the sides of the pyramid in gold and shadow. The workers' movements slow, but still they drag. Still they haul. Still they lift. Night and day blur into one another. Time itself seems measured not in hours, but in stones raised and stones placed. You realize that this project is not only about building, it is about eternity. The king for whom this pyramid rises seeks to outlast death itself. In these stones, he seeks permanence. For the workers, however, eternity feels far away. What they know is the burn of their muscles, the dryness of their throats, the ache of their bones. They do not build for glory. They build because they must, because their lives are bound to this monument. As you stand in the torchlight, gazing up at the unfinished peak, you feel the weight of all that labor pressing around you. The pyramid is more than stone. It is sweat, breath, pain, and time stacked higher and higher. Every block is a memory of effort. Every step on the ramp, a measure of human endurance. When the night deepens and the workers finally collapse in sleep, the pyramid remains, silent, immovable, massive against the stars. You lie back on the sand, looking up at its dark outline. It feels less like a building, and more like a mountain born of human will. And as you breathe slowly, letting the desert night settle around you, the rhythm of labor softens in your thoughts until it becomes something quiet, steady and endless.